if you go to Rob Ash's house, he'll kind of show you his wine cellar and kind of the art up on the wall and things like that. You go to Chote's house, he's going to show you his kegerator, his bonfire pit, and his boat.
Don't forget, Rob Ash would show you his hot tub. That's
right, the Mountain Springs hot tub.
Mountain Springs hot tub. Let me show you this fine hot tub. Now just $2.99.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Well, as we inch toward fall camp, summer here, we're going to bring you a little bit of a podcast that we're putting together, talk about some news. We have some polls coming out, some preseason accolades, some roster moves, and unfortunately, the departure of Chris Murray.
Yep, that's just kind of a bummer all around. And we actually have a special guest on here to talk about it here coming up in a little bit to talk about Chris Murray's departure. But we weren't sure if we're going to do in our episode, but just a whole bunch of news came out at once. We had some roster moves. We had some polls come out, some preseason accolades, the Chris Murray thing. Like, all right, let's record an episode. Let's do this.
Absolutely. There's enough to talk about, and why not?
Why not?
Give the football fans a little something to chew on during this downtime. I mean, we could talk about summer football, but I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, all you get is like these like Snapchat photos. I don't even know. It's not even Snapchat. Instagram photos of the football players wearing like shorts and t-shirts, and you're like, whoa, look at there. Lance McCutcheon's running a deep route. That's pretty cool, Or Troy Anderson's covering the flat pretty good. He's looking great,
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yep. I need to look at those. Like, I don't even do that. It'd be entertaining at the very least.
Oh, I mean, it's like it's basically what Montana State's trying to do to keep you interested in football right now. So
that's what we're doing to keep you interested in football.
Yeah,
at least in the podcast.
Exactly. What we're doing is way better. So
yeah,
listen to us.
Top
Don't
notch.
Don't look at those pictures. Just listen to us.
Don't actually pay attention to the football players. Pay attention to us.
There you go. So, Thorny, as we do in every episode, we always lead off with, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Michelob Ultra.
Ooh.
Yep. Not much to say about it. I'm drinking it because I'm fat. I don't want to be as fat.
I did not expect you to say that.
Not like it's going to make me lose weight, but hopefully I don't gain weight drinking it too much. Anyway.
Well, there you
beach
go.
Body,
There you go. Yeah, it's summer season coming up. Are you taking any beach vacations?
Too late for me.
Live over there on the coast.
No,
you guys got anything coming up? Okay.
We might be taking a trip back to Montana, so that's about it. I got my winter body still, so I'll be fine in Montana.
There you go.
How about you?
Well, I'm drinking what's called the Bubble Stash India Pale Ale from Hop Valley Brewing Company. And this is out of Eugene, Oregon, which I'm traveling through next week. We're going down to see my wife's family in Brookings, Oregon. So just tried the beer recently at a barbecue. It was delicious. It's an India Pale Ale. I know you don't like those. And it's in a green can, and so that's about it. But I got a backup with a Miller Lite and a koozie.
There you go. Got to protect it. I don't think there's going to be an episode where I don't make fun of your koozies. Got to do it every time.
Like, before the season's over, I'm gonna like convince you that the koozie drinking with the beer is by far better.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
So let's lead off with why don't we talk about the polls? Some preseason polls came out this week, and the Bobcats were in them. So give us a rundown.
Yep, I put the poll out there to our huge Twitter following. We were number 8 in the Athlon Sports poll, which is the Craig Haley formula of what was the old one? FCS. It was TSN for a while. A sport, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that website's changed hands a few times. But Craig Haley's been a part of it for a long time. We're number 8 in that poll. The Hero Sports, the kind of the upstart FCS coverage conglomerate, we're number 14. And the Street and Smith, which is usually kind of the laughing stock of the FCS world. Everyone kind of makes fun of it, but I put it on here anyway. We're number 16 in there. And the last two sound about right to me. What do you think? First of all, I guess the poll results are 73% of the people who voted in our poll said the Hero Sports sounds the best at number 14.
Yeah, I think the Hero Sports would be more or less where I would cast my vote. Just without a known quarterback, it just gives me a little bit of pause. We beat Incarnate Word last season in the playoffs. We beat the Grizzlies at the end of the year. We got trounced by North Dakota State. And so, yeah, I think that's about right. We're on the upward trajectory. I don't know if it's, exponentially going up right now or linearly, just kind of whatever slope you want to choose right there. But 14 sounds about right without knowing who's going to be our starting quarterback. And, if we had, let's say, a preseason, Big Sky Conference, top 3 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, for sure, I would say, that 8 ranking or something close, maybe even lower than that would be something more realistic, but it all hinges on the quarterback for me.
Yeah, there's actually, from the outsider's perspective, we have a fair amount of questions to answer. We graduated some good talent on the defensive line, got a new defensive coordinator. Our quarterback is now a linebacker who couldn't really throw the ball anyway. So, you take all that into account, I'm surprised we're even a top 15 team. Yeah, we got a lot of pieces coming back, but polls are kind of weird. You just kind of look at your team and you just kind of, we feel like a 15. You don't really gauge how other teams actually are. One year, the talent we have right now, we could be a top 10 team because the league may be or the entire division may be down. You just don't know these things. You just kind of gauge it how you feel. I don't feel like we're a top 10 team. That's how I feel. I agree. 14, anywhere from 14 to 20, I would have been comfortable with, even though we finished kind of strong. There's just a lot of questions coming back for us to have to we have a lot to prove before we're anywhere near a top 10 team, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. And these are just preseason polls. So, but, historically, when we have had good rankings or favorable rankings, we haven't lived up to them. So, I don't know, when they came out and I saw those numbers, I was a little bit it gave me a little bit of pause there for a moment. I just think back to that time when we were number 1 in the nation going into the Cat Grizz. We don't need to talk about that.
No, it's it's sad that we're snake bitten like that. We shouldn't be afraid to have that number 1 ranking. But as Cat fans, we have been burned with a few times we've extended to those top 5 heights. Then, it's almost like we prefer to be a little bit of the underdog role. But eventually, you have to have the mentality of we're going to beat everyone. Everyone else is the underdog. And honestly, looking at the schedule, I kind of feel that way this year. There's not too many teams that I think are going to be favored over us.
I know. And that to me is kind of sucks in a way, because to have these rankings, let's say we are, it is important to have these rankings because you don't have as much ground to make up if you're outside the top 25, if you're trying to get a playoff bid. But if we're not going to play any teams that solidify these rankings, then we're kind of in that same boat we've been in the last couple of years, where who have the Cats really beat? To be a top whatever team, we should beat those top whatever teams. And I don't feel like that's happened a lot for us.
No, we haven't really had that signature win in that regard. Okay, yeah, we beat the Grizz last 3 years, but the Grizz weren't powers in any of those years. They weren't a playoff team a single one of those years.
Exactly.
So what's our next biggest win outside of Cat Grizz? It's kind of hard to say.
I always talk about getting over the hump. I think that's kind of when that will happen. When we can say definitively, okay, that was was that moment. That was that defining moment we've been looking for. So,
yeah, I don't know who we have even opportunity to do that against all the way
I
up
know.
until UC Davis, second last week of this game of the season.
Yeah, you think UC Davis is going to be legit again, don't you?
If you got Jake Meyer under center, you got a chance.
Is that their quarterback?
Mhm.
Okay.
If I had to pick a preseason Big Sky Conference offensive MVP, it'd be Jake Meyer.
Okay.
Or yeah, Meyer, whatever his name is.
So let's talk. Let's move on from these preseason polls. Let's talk quickly about some preseason accolades. We had 3 of them.
We got Mitch Brott on the offensive line, and I don't remember if he's first or second team. I think he's second.
Yes, you're correct.
Isaiah Nfonse is also second team running back. Third team running back. And then Troy Anderson, what is he?
He's a first team athlete.
He's a first team athlete. What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Is he an athlete defensively? Is there an athlete category for offense and defense, or is there just straight? Is there just athlete?
That's kind of like Troy Anderson got first team quarterback last year. Well, he played quarterback. Would you call him a quarterback?
He took the snaps. He's the quarterback.
Yeah, he was a quarterback. For sure. He was the quarterback. And he's going to take some snaps for us this year too. So
it's insane that he's first team all conference in a position that he hasn't even really played.
I know.
Like they're not putting him on there because I think he's going to run for 1,500 yards again. They think he's going to be linebacker / running back / whatever else. So it's pretty ridiculous that he's getting that kind of national attention without having proven anything outside of he can run the ball really well. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any other players in history of sports have kind of had this kind of hype for this kind of just position change. Like it's weird. It's entertaining.
I feel bad for Troy Anderson in a way because if Troy Anderson is trying to make the NFL, then Montana State really hasn't been doing him a whole lot of favors.
It's true.
I mean, that could be a whole podcast in itself. But
we could just rename this the Troy Anderson podcast, and we'd get a lot of subscribers. But we'll keep it to a minimum here.
Hey, I wanted to ask you on those preseason accolades. Do you think anybody got snubbed from the Bobcats?
I don't like to say that because I don't know enough about the rest of the country, the production of the guys ahead of anybody, but it's crazy to me, like a guy like Bryce Stirk or even Braden Conkle can't make any sort of honorable mention or anything. Yeah. Third team. Like those guys, like even Jacquay Allen, like we have 3 guys I think are elite at their position who couldn't even make it past honorable mention conference, which is I think kind of the criteria for national attention, isn't it? I'm not entirely sure on that, but they're not going to name a guy first team All-American Hero Sports who was honorable mention safety last year.
Yeah. Good point.
So if the snubs happened, it was at the all conference level, which kind of then hamstrings you on up, I think.
Good point.
So yes, we got some snubs for sure. And I think that's kind of a good thing. I think that's going to motivate some people back there.
Absolutely. I'd throw Loose Kid in there too. I think he's primed to have a good year.
I think our offensive line is going to be salty.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about some roster moves. We had a couple big guys come in. Seems like we are the landing pad for Washington, the University of Washington, which it doesn't bother me. We had 2 guys come in from them in recent weeks. Dylan Porter was not from Washington. He's a Nevada transfer. Mm-hmm. He signed last week with us. He has 3 years to play. 6'6", 305, offensive line. Do you have any thoughts on him?
I have no idea. I really don't think he'll crack the starting rotation this year, but we needed some depth. We needed some backup. We needed some size and experience at the very least case a guy goes down or to push the other guys. So I think it's a great signing because I think he will factor in at some point. I'm just not sure it'll be this year because we have a pretty solidified line outside of losing the center, Alex Neal.
The other guy was Jason Skrempos. He is a Washington. He played at the University of Washington, graduate transfer. If I'm reading that right.
Yes.
6'6". Yeah, 6'6", 295.
Yeah, pretty much the same size as the offensive lineman we signed.
D line.
I know.
And now you have the potential to have 3 UW players on our D line with Amandre Williams, Bryce Dirk, and now Jason Skrempos.
How good is the depth at UW? If guys like this can't even make the rotation, it's not like we're getting guys that like had a lot of play. I guess Amandre Williams did, but just the fact that some of these guys can't even like see the field, and they've been starting at a lot of other FBS schools, let alone pretty much every FCS school. Like Bryce Strick would have started anywhere. Maybe not like NDSU, or maybe because NDSU always has a ridiculous D-line, but Strick would start at 97% of FCS schools day one. And
it is hard to fathom.
I don't know about Skrempos, but at the very least, we needed some big bodies along the line because we lost such good productivity and seniority there. So it's going to be good to have some more guys to rotate in there. And
I just like the fact that Choate has this pipeline, for players that are looking for some more playing time that he has connections to, and those players' connections to Choate will eventually run out because, time will pass. But his ends with Chris Peterson, whether it be at Boise State or now University of Washington are paying dividends for us with just players, but not also with coaches. We got a couple new coaches recently. Jonathan Amosa and Hayden, I'm going to butcher his last name, Shu. Both are Husky players. And we got one, Josh, I'm going to butcher his last name, Twafalele. Did I see that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Nate Potter came in, a Boise State connection. So Choate's like, keeping all his, it's kind of like all his players and coaches like close to the vest, his comfort zone, so to say. So
I think it's pretty common. I remember, when Ash first came over, he brought Marshall with him. He brought a couple of guys, didn't he, too? Like, there was a couple of guys he brought with him, all the staff he brought with him, and he brought at least one player. The only player that I can think of, I know for a fact, played with him was Jason D'Alba.
Yeah.
Drake. I don't remember if there's any other players, but I think that's kind of a different story, though. Like, Drake is a school that wouldn't really have the same talent level as even we would, but then like a guy from like Choate, who comes from an FBS lineage, going to be plenty of talent that blew through the cracks that could poach.
Oh, for sure.
And I think the pipeline will be open for a little bit longer too.
Well, I was just saying,
not too much longer.
I don't know if Choate has proven that he can recruit a quarterback, but when it comes to D-line, we got those in spades now. So,
well, how many do we have that were high school recruits of Choate's? Is he going to only rely on UW transfers to fill out defensive line? Because that's not sustainable.
No, it is not. So,
I think maybe is it Ferreter? Is he the junior of the bunch?
No, Ferreter, I believe, is a senior. And then we got Derek Marks back.
Marks is a senior. One of those guys is a junior. But then Chase Benson, I think, would have been a total Choate recruit, right? Benson, pretty sure, because he's a junior. And then the Sear Dines, I can't remember I can never remember which way that name goes, but he was definitely a Choate recruit.
Yeah, that's true.
Small town, Washington. So, yeah, it'll be. The point is, D-line seems to be a strength. I hope that he can be as successful recruiting high school kids as he does defensive line transfers, and I'm hoping Skrempos is as good as Stirk, and I'm hoping Williams is as good too. It remains to be seen. I've heard nothing but good things out of fall camp or spring camp from him, but still hasn't played a game.
Nope. You always wonder on those transfer guys, are they going to gel? Are they going to buy in? So that's the biggest question in my mind.
And then the other news we have from the roster moves is Tyrell Burgess is no longer on the team, which I know you will be bummed about.
Gosh, I was rooting for that guy.
I thought he was going to factor in at some point. I don't know if he just never turned the corner because he was going to be a junior, right?
That sounds about right.
I think Vim on the board had projected that Burgess might not even make the chart at running back. You think Shane Perry had passed him? So grades aside, Vim seemed to think that he might not even be invited to fall camp, as it were. Don't know, that's conjecture, but certainly a guy who had a ton of athleticism and flashed a lot of potential. He is a victim to grade concerns as well, I believe. I don't think he'll be coming back. I don't know that, but typically grade issues are final most of the time.
Yeah. And then, with the news with Jalen Cole,
which is actually positive in this regard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember the injury he sustained in the Grizzly game. Do you?
I don't remember the specific play where it happened, but I knew he did sustain an injury and just kind of thing that hampered him. And I thought he was pretty much retiring, but it sounds like he just might be able to come back. They just basically didn't want to hold a spot for him. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're bringing in tons and tons of guys, and that's one thing we can talk about if we have time on this podcast. So it's recruiting philosophy, but there's only so many roster spots, and if you have a guy who medically can't go, you have to make some tough decisions.
Well, let's hold off on.
I know that's one thing we were waiting on too. Is Jabari Johnson? Like, Choate basically told him at some point he's going to have to make a decision too. He told that to Johnson, and have you heard anything about Jabari Johnson?
Well, some news came out just recently. I think the Gazette or some other paper reported on Johnson, and Choate was saying that, we're just waiting for his knee, or waiting for May to come around, seeing how his knee was going to go, and then we're going to go from there. So I would listen to Coulter's podcast on the numbers today. The last edition just came out, and he's kind of referencing it, and it sounded like he was saying that it sounded like there was a lot of gray area there. So Jabari may come back for his fifth year. Brooks was saying, he's like, if you're iffy on him, like, there's definitely a spot for him, or should be a spot for him on the 90-man roster. But you don't know. So, if I had to go with my gut, I don't think Jabari Johnson is going to play again. I just don't think his knee is going to get that much better.
It's been a long time, and you think you would have heard by now if he was cleared or on the way to being cleared.
And unfortunately, with the offense we run,
we need him.
Well, kind of. I mean, it is what it is, and that's something I really kind of wanted to ask you before this whole thing was done. Is kind of about our offensive identity. How do you feel about who we are as an offensive team? Do you like Choate's philosophy?
I don't know what Choate's philosophy is yet. I think he's had to play the cards he's been dealt, and maybe he dealt himself those cards. I don't truly know what his philosophy is yet. I doubt his philosophy is to have a guy in there who can't throw the ball and just runs all over the field and just runs a QB power triple wing offense. I'm kind of skeptical that that's what he brought to the table, but that's what we ended up having. So I don't know where we are yet. I know we're going to be a team that's going to be physical no matter how we play it out. But if you're telling me, I still don't really know what Choate wants to do on offense. And that's another reason why you can't be a top 10 team if you don't really know what your offensive identity is just yet. I think Matt Miller's got us headed in the right direction, but again, now we're going to try actually have a quarterback who can throw the ball. So we might have a whole different looking offense next year.
Yeah.
So hard to say.
It's crazy to think that you're going into year 4 and you're still thinking about that.
I'm just tired of having a quarterback controversy.
Me too.
I'm just tired of talking about it. I just want us to have a guy, and we can talk about him and whether he played well or played poorly, but not like, well, I guess bring in the next guy. Like, okay, why didn't we start him this week? Why did we start him? It's like I'm tired of just talking like that.
Yeah,
Just want a guy.
exactly. Stick with them. Let them develop. Going to be all right. You can hand the ball off to Troy Anderson if that's what you really want. We got Infante in the backfield. Let them do the work. Come on.
Yeah, one guy we don't have anymore would be Chris Murray.
No, we don't. This is sad. It's really just sad.
I just feel bad for everyone, for Chris Murray. I mean, it's a life-changing thing to not cut it in the college that you were a starting quarterback at. I don't know where his future holds football-wise, but I hope he lands on his feet academically and just in life. Just hope he turns out and this doesn't be too big of a speed bump for him. But I don't know if he was going to factor into the quarterback conversation or not. Who knows?
If he was around, for sure, he would have been a factor in the quarterback conversation. Absolutely.
Well, again, does that go back to if Choate's identity is more of a guy who can throw the ball down the field, who is more arm than leg, Chris Murray is still more leg than arm.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I wonder how
decisions
much
would have been made, but yeah, he would have factored in for sure. You're right.
Well, I wonder how much say Matt Miller has in this decision. So,
yeah, same coaching tree there.
yeah, right.
There you go. The Boise State.
Oh, I have high respect for Matt Miller.
Yeah.
Everything. I remember watching him in high school. I remember coming back from like college, visiting Great Falls or something, visiting my folks and finding out that Russell was playing Capital. I would go over to Helena to watch that game. It was always just a good rivalry. And so I remember watching him play. He played two sides of the ball. He played running back, I believe. Or was he quarterback? I can't remember. But he played off. Was he?
Yeah, he's basically Troy Anderson of what we do with Troy Anderson now would be like Matt Miller.
Okay.
I don't know that for a fact. I just remember watching his highlight tape and he seemed to play quarterback a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he played both sides of the ball. I want to say he was like safety or something. But I mean, he's just a player. So it was kind of cool too, because then I took a teaching position out in Southern Idaho in Nampa, and then he ends up at Boise State. And so I go watch Boise State games, and there's Matt Miller. So it was pretty cool. Well, to talk about Chris Murray's legacy, we brought in a special guest today, Corey Chenoweth. Some of you might know him on Bobcatnation as wbtfg. He's going to give us some insights on just Chris Murray, what he meant to Montana State and his legacy. And now we're going to take a little shift in the program. We're going to invite one of the most prolific posters in Bobcat Nation, wbtfg.
Top 5 for sure.
Top 5 for sure. Well, one of these days we should do our top 5 posters on Bobcat Nation.
Well, that would go badly.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I want to do it. Corey Chenoweth is joining us today. Corey, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me on here. So, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome. We invited Corey on specifically to talk about Chris Murray and his departure from Montana State, and kind of like some thoughts on what Chris Murray meant to him, essentially. And Corey's going to talk to us about Chris Murray and his departure from Montana State.
Yeah, everyone at this point pretty much knows what happened, why he's no longer at the team. So we're not going to really talk much about that. We just want to know what he meant to the program and how will he be remembered in 10, 15, 20 years from now, because he had a short burst of a career here.
Hold on, Thorny. We forgot to ask him the most important question, though.
Yes, we did.
That is, what are you drinking tonight, Corey?
Well, I am drinking Miner's Gold from Lewis and Clark. It has
Nice.
a blue and gold can for the Bobcats, and it's, gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival. I think they were named Best Small Brewery of the Year. So,
Really?
so that's what I'm drinking. And I'm here in Helena, so it's a local Helena beer.
Nice.
Oh, man, I miss Montana beer. I miss the Blackfoot in Helena more than anything.
Oh, yeah. Yep,
Oh,
great beer here. Blackfoot, Lewis and Clark.
Yeah.
Can I give a shout out to a bar that's just one of my favorite bar of all time is in Great Falls, Montana, my hometown. It's the Steinhaus, and if you've never been there, it's such a gem. It's all microbrews on tap. There's probably 20 to 25. There's no liquor, but it's just all the states beers reside. Feels like all the states beers reside in the Steinhaus, and it's just a cozy place. You get these big steins for like $3.75. You can put peanut shells on the floor. They got a fireplace in the back. Really great atmosphere. Everybody's always happy in there. You can hear each other. It's a great place. But it just reminded me when you were talking about the Lewis and Clark Brewery, because you always have a couple of those guys beers on tap. Tumbleweed is pretty much a mainstay over there. And nice. Myers Gold for sure. So,
well, I know who our first sponsor is going to be.
Right.
You just gave him a free one. It's a freebie.
That's right. Heck yeah.
All right. Well, let's get back on track. Talk to us, Corey, about Chris Murray.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say exactly what he means to the program. I mean, he played for 2 years, and there were two, I would say, very roller coaster years, both in terms of team performance as well as his own individual performances. He had some of the most amazing plays I've ever seen, many of them against the Grizzlies, and also a lot of plays that just kind of left you scratching your head, like, what the heck was that all about? But in terms of his legacy, I mean, I think his legacy, and I don't even know if this is arguable, is he's a Grizz player. Like, his best games, I think, every year, or his most memorable moments always came against the Grizz, which obviously, the highlight that's going to live on forever is him doing a flip, into the end zone and teabagging Connor Strom. Can I say that?
You sure can.
All right.
We got the E for explicit on our podcast. We're fine.
Excellent. And then, same dude, that Connor Strom came up to meet him in the hole, and Chris just buckled his legs and went right by him. And I think that ended up being a touchdown or a long gain on, like a 3rd and 20 or something like that. And so, I mean, I think that's his legacy, is he slayed the Grizz 2 times in a row. I mean, first time he was barely 18 years old.
Which is crazy.
Oh my
crazy.
Gosh.
It's crazy. And I mean, and you think about before the season, we were supposed to have a big time 4-star quarterback from like Washington State.
Reverse that a little bit. We were supposed to have Dakota Prukop.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And all of a sudden we got like one dude who's, I mean, because Brugman didn't pan out and Prukop left, and who's the other guy we had? I don't remember. Was he the one who went to? Is that the Manhattan
Jordan Hoy.
kid?
Yeah, it was Hoy.
Oh, yeah, Jordan Hoy. Yep, went to a junior college. And then there was kind of a local in-state kid as well. It seems like I don't remember if that was the.
It's Ben Folsom, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Folsom, right? Yeah.
I don't even think he stuck
so
with
all
the
of
team.
a sudden,
No,
we were just left with Chris Murray. And, at the time he was 17 years old, and he kind of played like he was 17 years old at sometimes. Man, he's probably one of the most dynamic athletes I've ever seen in a Bobcat uniform.
Agreed. And it's funny you mentioned that. Well, it's not funny because everyone's going to mention the flip into the end zone. But up until last year, that was like my all-time favorite Cat Grizz play in history. Up until the stuff from last year might have topped it. But gosh, yeah, what an amazing stretch he had against the Grizz alone, and couldn't have embarrassed a better guy than number 42 for the Grizz there, Connor Strom.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk bad about players, but I'll just not a big fan of his
I think
antics.
he was 10. I think Strom was 10 and
10,
Buck
yeah.
was 42.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you're
yeah,
right.
I mean, I mean, Bus is a crazy athlete, and Chris Murray made him look slow. I mean, he's
Yeah.
just a ridiculous athlete, and right up there with Troy Anderson. I mean, those two guys on the field at the same time are two of the best athletes that I've ever seen in Bobcat uniform.
And I was just hoping against hope that they'd be on the field together this year in the backfield at the same time in some ridiculous package.
I agree.
Oh man, I can't imagine.
I was hoping
Wow.
to see a package with Travis Johnson, Chris Murray, and Troy Anderson. Three of probably the best athletes I have seen on the Bobcat team, all playing at the same time.
Yeah, without a doubt. And
But-
so it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens with him. I don't know. I don't understand eligibility well enough to know, does he have a chance to play at a junior college? I don't think he does, but can he move down to like a NAIA, which God help anybody on that field if he goes to NAIA. But so I don't know if there's football in his future or not, or if he's kind of done.
Well, NAIA tends to be a little bit more higher academic schools, doesn't it?
No, not necessarily. I mean, they just have different. They're under a different governing body, so they have different eligibility requirements.
Sure.
But not necessarily. I mean, like
Western
Dickinson State, or I'm not going to pick on any Montana schools, but
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he
Oregon.
has an opportunity to go to the JC route or not, because I think he probably could for 1 year, because then he'd be eligible to go play one more year at anywhere, right? That's how it could work, because he's basically redshirting last year. He'd have to get his grades in order for this next coming semester, which I don't think he could. I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
That's all conjecture.
Yeah, I really don't know what his future is. I hope he gets to play some more football, and if he does, I would love to watch some videos of him play, because like we were talking about, like you're talking about, he was one of the most fluid, insane athletes I've seen. It didn't even look like he was ever even trying. Like when he was going full sprint, he just looked like he was just strolling on a lazy Sunday, and he just outruns everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and he kind of got, like I said, it's almost too bad, because it's like it almost wasn't fair for him, because I don't think that he was maybe quite ready to just sort of have the spotlight on him, and I don't think the coaches were ready to give the spotlight on him. I think they sort of planned for him to redshirt, and things didn't work out that way, and it'd have been interesting to see. I mean, it's hindsight is 2020, but it would be interesting to see how if things had worked out differently, either with Prukop or Jordan Hoy or somebody like that, where Chris could have redshirted a year and had a year on the bench, and then seen where he could have gone from there. I think like everything kind of piled up on him all at once, and it just unfortunately didn't work out.
Well, the magnitude of leading a Division I football team when you're 17 years old must be
exactly.
I can't fathom. So
no, I mean, he was barely 18 the next year when he went into Pullman.
and
yeah,
pretty big time in college environment. At like 18 for 6 months. Still an 18-year-old kid.
So Corey, besides being the Grizz Slayer, what was your other favorite Chris Murray moment?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think that that's a great question. It's funny. I remember his first year, and we were about halfway through the season, and I was looking at our stats, and I think that it was like 3 or 4 plays all year, and this was still kind of when Brugman was the main quarterback, and Murray was seeing kind of some spot duty, and I was looking at our stats, and I think we had 3 plays over 30 yards the entire season, and every single one of them was a Chris Murray run.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you remember that first year, our offense was painful. I mean, it was bad. It was so frustrating to watch.
It wasn't until later in the year when who was OC that year? Was that Messingham?
That was
Yeah.
Messingham.
Yeah, but before they even like attempted to like realize like, all right, this kid can't pass. Let's see what we can do with him. Like they just kept trying to have him play the same role as Brugman for a while.
Right.
He's not that kind of quarterback. So it took a while before he even had any success moving the football.
Exactly, and you know, the kind of the 17-year-old freshman that only gets a handful of snaps a game. He's the only one on the team that had any, you know, any single plays that were over 30 yards or more. So I mean, I looked at that and that just kind of like blew. I still remember that. It just kind of blew my mind back then.
How about you, Foley? What is your favorite non-Grizzly Chris Murray moment?
There's two of them that come to mind. One being the South Dakota State game.
Yep.
The opener on Gold Rush night, he was lights out. He made a couple passes to Jabari Johnson that where he didn't make that the year before, and it was just like, wow, if this is what Chris Murray's going to be, you know, like watch out. And that game, even though we lost, was one of the most memorable games that I can remember. Honestly, it was such a high-profile game, and holy cow, you know,
we roasted the occasion in that game. We just came up short. And
it felt like that. You know, exactly. It was kind of like, it was like that kind of moment where, you know, okay, Choate and company are going to get over this hump that they were building. You know, we just beat the Grizz, and now we're ascending. And then it was like, no, not quite yet. But
well, it was one fake field goal away. You know.
Yeah.
What a great play call! As much as I hate it.
Hell yeah! And the O-line coach for the Cats, who had went over there. Do you remember panning to him on the feed? Oh my gosh! What was his name? Jason
Eck.
Yeah, Jason Eck. So there you go. My other one was he lit up North Dakota.
Yeah.
Something fierce. And we just trounced him. And boy, he was just completing deep balls and we just waxed them. And I just remember him. That was the other one that just stood out to me. Just that game was like, it was so much fun to watch. And that was a game where everybody on their team pretty much was injured. And remember, they were conference champs the year before.
Yeah.
And so we're coming in, we're like, oh man, we're going to beat them. And we did solidly, but they didn't have.
Well, at the time, it was like a pretty big win. Like they were still like, that was like the first game of them turning into cellar dwellers. Was basically losing to us. Kind of funny, but at the time, it was a pretty solid win. Like people thought that was going to be, all right, we're still in this thing.
Yeah, it looked good at the moment, but then again, you know, North Dakota proved that they didn't have much grit after that. It was comical how many players they lost to injury. But another good Chris Murray game. So it just makes me sad. I remember hearing Coulter talk about it, and I was listening to it with my father, his podcast on Friday, and I agree with Coulter. It's just like overall, I'm just sad for him because the longevity of him trying to get back to this point and all the work he did, and it didn't pan out for him. I mean, that's hard. That's a tough pill to swallow. You put 2 years of work into it, and you didn't make it. And no matter what, I just root for the kids. You know, I root for the guys, and so I just want him
secondary.
to have a chance. And yeah, exactly. And then he had his chance, and it didn't pan out. So I just feel bad for Chris Murray. Ultimately, I don't feel bad for Montana State. I feel bad for Chris Murray.
Yeah, it's easy to sit there and just get upset at like, how come we couldn't make it? We needed him on the team, but you know, it's not like he didn't try. And we should never feel that way either. Like these are just kids; they're just trying to figure out life. I didn't know anything when I was 17, 18. I don't know anything now. So it takes a while to figure out who you are, and not college isn't for everyone. Like who knows? There could be lots of different paths for him.
So Thorny.
Right, and you know, I was just gonna say. I mean, you know, it's easy for us as fans, and especially rabid fans and things like that, to sort of cast judgments and kind of think about how that ruins our Saturdays. Not that it ruins our Saturday, but I mean, just to be a little bit a
I know
little
what you
bit
mean.
too
Yeah.
overzealous about that, and think about it more in terms of ourselves rather than, from his perspective and having empathy for him. So we don't, nobody knows, right? That nobody on Bobcat Nation knows what's going on in his world. No one knows, what his life looks like, where he is now, where he came from, and things like that. So, it's silly for anybody to sort of get mad or cast any types of like negative judgment or anything like that. I think all you can do now is just sort of, thank him, I guess, for the 2 fun years, and especially beating the Grizz, and a lot of really great exciting plays, and wish him the best, and maybe try to follow his career if he ends up somewhere else.
Yep. No, I agree with that completely. And I think you will have a positive legacy for sure. I mean, you go 2-0 against the Grizz, people don't forget that. It's just kind of the nature of the position too. Like I could pretty much name any quarterback who's taken any snap for the Bobcats since like 2000, no matter how good or bad their careers turned out. You remember quarterbacks, and you're not going to forget his plays. I definitely wasn't on a very good football team both of his years, and he's certainly part of the reason they weren't very good. But so that always it makes it harder to remember legacy. I remember I posted on the basketball board. I was bored one day at work, and I was like looking up the like leading scorers for the Bobcats like 10, 15 years ago. And I asked the question, and nobody could remember who the leading scorer was for 2 years in a row. It was Jerron Jefferson. Remember him?
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, he had like a game-winning like 3-pointer against the Grizz, and
I remember watching that in my basement. It was awesome.
And yet no one could even remember who he was. Like it's just kind of like if you're not on a good team, it's like you can be a good player on a bad team. It's just you're not going to be etched into the history books. Even like Jerron Jefferson, who beat the Grizz on a game-winning 3-pointer. Like how many people remember that?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So when it comes to Chris Murray, I don't know how he's going to be remembered. I don't think anyone can forget just the imprint he made on you watching him play, just the polarizing nature of him. Like, oh, which Chris Murray are we getting today? The one who's going to just look lights out, or the one who's going to complete one pass out of 12 attempts?
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about a roller coaster. That's as big as a roller coaster as you can have. Because I think the very next game after that South Dakota State game is when he completed like 1 or 2 passes.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, you think about that, his first Cat Grizz game, I think he completed 2, but he kind of did play lights out. I think he had about 200 yards rushing.
And the last one was that the one to Connor Sullivan that sealed the game, which
right.
So at that point, he had completed 1 pass until the game-winning pass. Oh, so, I heard that.
Yeah.
Party on.
Me. So Thorny, I think you have some questions for Corey, don't you?
I sure do. Got some rapid-fire questions here.
All right.
Let's end this here. Who is our starting quarterback against Texas Tech?
Tucker Rovig.
That's what I thought you'd say. Who's our starting quarterback against NAU, the first conference opponent?
Ooh.
You think it's still Tucker Rovig?
I think it's still Tucker Rovig.
Yep, that'd be my guess too. Who is going to be our offensive MVP?
I'm going to say Afonso. That's kind of the easy one, but that guy is just out of this world.
I think we're going to put a lot on his shoulders this year.
Well, yeah, so it's kind of go back. With Choate's offenses, so I know this is rapid fire, but I've listened to your show before, and I know the tangents you go on. So,
thank you. Appreciate that. A true fan here.
Yes.
No, but, one thing that'll be interesting is, without that, one of the things that Choate loves is that +1 run game, right, with the quarterback, whether it's Chris Murray or Troy Anderson or things like that. And one of the reasons I think he really loves that is that the linebackers have to account for the quarterback run game. And I think that was a big part of both I think that was a big part of Isaiah Afonso's success this year, is because a lot of times, if the linebackers kind of had their eye on Troy Anderson, or at least one eye on Troy Anderson, and maybe not guarding against Afonso as much as they normally would in a traditional or an offense with a traditional quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see how we do when we maybe don't have that quarterback that's as much of a threat to run, and how that affects Ifanse in the run game.
Agreed. And how important is it though and how much of a sacrifice was it for Logan Jones to redshirt last year so he could come back and become a threat to help out that threat to the edge, which we don't have. Ifanse doesn't really have himself.
Yeah, man, Logan Jones, that's one kid I love watching that kid play. Man, he plays so hard. I love when he's in the game.
Yeah, second that.
Defensive MVP.
I'm gonna go with the new guy, Amandre Williams, the buck end from Washington.
Wild card.
I like it.
You never know.
That's not who I would have picked, but
who'd you pick?
Yeah, tangent. Go for it.
Braden Conkle.
Ooh, Conkle. I love Conkle.
It's a hard pick because I think Sturt could have a big year, whether he plays inside or outside, doesn't matter. I think Conkle's a good choice. I think Jacque Allen's going to have a good year too.
Yeah, I agree.
We got three studs.
Well, and then you got Troy Anderson on there, and he's maybe the best athlete on the entire field.
Yeah. Which is ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, he is the best athlete on the entire field. Whether or not he's best at his position, that's a different topic, but we can get in. We will dissect that throughout this season, no doubt.
No doubt, yeah.
Do you have a favorite FBS team?
Not really. It just kind of depends on the year. I'll root for some teams, but no, I don't think I necessarily have a favorite. There's definitely some teams like Ohio State that I always root against.
Go Buckeyes.
I know. But no, I don't really have a favorite FBS team.
What was your favorite watering hole in Bozeman in college?
Cannery,
nice.
Cannery. I think I saw they lost their license for a little bit, and they're staying open too long and things like that. And it's like I definitely took advantage of that back in the day as well.
Nice. And
There's
last question.
Limitations? I don't know.
No, not for that. Pretty sure you're safe.
All right.
And last question: are you going to homecoming?
Heck yeah. We have season tickets. We go to every game. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that is the game we might go to. So we will let you buy us a beer if we make it out there.
Heck yeah. I'll bring you some Lewis and Clark Miners Gold and tumbleweed.
Man,
I would love that.
I will pay double the market price for some. Do they sell the Teutonic Ale, or is it Tartonic? Or I can't remember what it is, but the Blackfoot.
Oh, like Blackfoot?
Yeah. I love that stuff.
I mean, I think just in a growler. I don't think they have it in stores.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. Dang, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well that was fun having you on. Thanks for coming on and talking a little bit about Chris Murray with us.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. You guys do a good job. It's always fun to listen to you, and keep it up.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, thanks to Corey. That was fun having him on.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was really enjoyable having him on, and it was a good discussion. He's way more articulate than we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can take our job.
That always gets me a little bit nervous, not going to lie.
Someone taking our job?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be hard. Wouldn't be hard. But
well, I think that's all we got, really, right, Ryan?
Yeah, that pretty much is the episode we had. We covered everything that I think we wanted to cover, and it was fun.
And coming up in the summer too, if things break and there's enough to talk about, expect a podcast to come out. So,
the Troy Anderson Hour.
Absolutely, we should just. You have no clue how many times I thought when I say, welcome back everybody to the R&R Cat. How I would love to say, welcome back everybody to the Troy Anderson Cat.
We could do the Troy Anderson watch, and every week we just talk about what we saw of Troy Anderson. That'd be a pretty boring podcast. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
as usual, you can find us on Twitter, RRCatCast. That's pretty much it. I don't think we're really anywhere else we don't have a Facebook page or anything. So yeah, find us on Twitter, RRCatCast, and of course on Bobcatnation on our recurring thread. You can find us there. Leave us some feedback.
Yes, please do.
All right. Well, let's end it with our classic Go Cats.
Go Cats.